So hello everyone, and thank you, Stephen, for the introduction. We are from Netatmo, and we're going to talk a little bit about CO2. So to start, we're going to present you the Netatmo vision, I would say, on the subject. And then we'll show you some key facts from statistics we have. Okay, so first with the Netatmo vision, which sensors to measure indoor air quality? So this is a good question. As we can see, we chose on our product to put CO2 sensors. Other competitors choose also to do that, but we can see that on the market there is also some other sensors like volatile organic compounds like formaldehyde and also particulate matter like PM 2.5, for example, that can pose a health risk. Based on that, the question is CO2 a good indicator for indoor air quality? So first, we want to say that CO2 is a good indicator of stuffiness. So it means that CO2 measurement can help you actually evaluate the adequation between the air exchange rate you have in a room and the room's occupancy, So in other words, what it means is that you can know if the room is ventilated enough, depending on the people that are in it and also the size of the room. So of course, when there is too much CO2 in the room, it means that the room is not ventilated enough and therefore the air quality will be bad. Another thing is that if the CO2 is bad on the room, it means that it's not ventilated, as we say. So if there are other pollutants in the room, of course, they will not be evacuated also. And there might be highly concentrated in the room and could pose a risk for the health of the people in the room. So quickly to sum up, I would say that we can say that CO2 is a way to identify easily poorly ventilated room. We can say that CO2 is a worldwide well-known indicator. Unfortunately, I'd say that with the current situation with COVID, of course, a lot more people are talking about CO2 and it's raising awareness among the population, I would say. There's an increased consideration about this indicator and also some legislation, some that existed before the situation and some that are new. But for example, in Europe, we can see that there's a scheme that is growing about a traffic light to show the indoor air quality based on the three colors. So green, yellow, let's say, or orange, and then red. It's interesting. There is a lot of talk and things going on around the CO2. And the last thing we want to say about the CO2 is that the sensors are reliable, and that's why we chose to integrate them in our products. Because we wanted to have reliable data, of course, and also in our product that can be on battery, for example. It is important to look at some, I'd say, technological characteristic around this sensor. So the CO2 are great for us. So now I'd say that the question is, can we say that CO2 alone is enough, I'd say, to indicate perfectly the indoor air quality of a room? So no, actually, because of course there can be other pollutants in the room that can be in high concentration. It doesn't mean that the CO2 level will be high. Of course, a low CO2 level doesn't mean that there are no other pollutants in the room. So for example, if you do some domestic activities, so let's say like cleaning or, I don't know, doing some painting, for example, of course, due to chemical products, there will be other pollutants, so like COV, for example, that will be induced from those chemical materials. A high concentration of CO2 means, as we say, a bad indoor air quality for sure, but the opposite is not true. So we cannot say the other way around. It's because there's no CO2 that the air quality is good, but we think that CO2 is a good indicator. And in fact, we think it's the best today to indicate the indoor air quality of the room. And more than the air quality, we are talking about the need to ventilate the room. Because today, what is important is that users know when to open their window in order to ventilate the room. So CO2, as you know, is naturally produced by human because it's a result of human metabolism. So I think it's a bit insidious in a way because you don't really realize that you're producing it. And when you do some painting or cleaning, for example, it's easy, I think, to remember that you need to open the window after you've finished. Sometimes you can have some odor that will make you remember, or also it's easy to say, I'm finished, I will just open the window to refresh the air. But with CO2, it's a bit different because you don't have really a reminder. And just, for example, if you work, let's say 7 hours in the same room and you don't ventilate, of course, the CO2 level will rise, sorry. So we believe that if someone or something were to be there to help you think about it and know that it's time to ventilate the room, it'd be better. So that's it for the vision, and I'll let Marcin talk about some statistics.
So, hi everybody again. So the point of also of Netatmo is that we provide to users so we have weather station and indoor air quality sensors that measures the CO2. So the point which is interesting compared to the other participants in this webinar is that we have a complementary product which is let's say activable on an individual scale, so you can buy it quite easily and you can install it quite easily. So what's interesting in the data that we will show you just after is that we are based, let's say, on the individual scale for individual dwellings and with quite various panel. So if I click here, sorry. So here, this is the result of a study that we have carried in 2019, based on the data which was gathered on different weather stations all over Europe throughout 1,000 dwellings per country. The point here was to illustrate that, for example, if we take the European average, we can say that around 22 or 23% of European households have at least once per day a polluted indoor air quality. We took as a threshold 1,000 ppm because it's what is admitted basically by the scientific community as the threshold over which you will start having headaches or problem to breathe on the long term, or let's say focusing problems, for example, when you work. So what we can see is that we have the different, let's say, groups of countries. We would have maybe some Latin countries on the left side, such as Italy, as France, rather Scandinavian countries really on the right. And what we could see also is that those differences can be dictated either by habits in different cultures or in different countries. That can be dictated also by different ventilation norms. We know that, for example, from our own research, that in Denmark and Sweden, the ventilation system are maybe more universal. So it tends to show also with what has been shown previously by Steven, that if there are some specific actions already made in a household, then your CO2 rates will be better. The second thing, which has been mentioned by already by Sandra and Steven, is the COVID. So we wanted to see also what was the user behavior in Europe during the first lockdown. So it was last year, of course, and we wanted to measure the difference in the average CO2 level in 1,000 households, and we compared the same households between 1 year and the second. And what we have seen is that in all those countries, as you can see on the screen, there has been a raise during this specific period, which was basically matching always the first wave of the COVID. And it's something that has been not really, how would I say, anticipated, because of course on the first day that when all the governments asked us to stay at home, so we stayed at home, but we didn't build a HVAC on the next day. So of course the patterns were already here, and unfortunately this air pollution has increased. And since then we have seen that the research shown that there is an impact of the stuffiness on the COVID, let's say, contamination between different individuals. So we can also see that we can relate that to the fact that people in the same house have been always much more contaminated between themselves, because of course you don't let your window open all day long, especially at the beginning of March. So to answer the initial question, why is it relevant for individual households? The first one is that we think it's relevant because it's not yet mastered by the users. So, okay, now with the COVID, we have seen that there is an awareness around this topic, but it's only because what is really shown in the media is that, okay, if you ventilate, you will spread out the COVID. Okay, but there is nothing really, there is no real focus on the other bad effects of having a CO2 too high. Also, one thing you have to understand also is that the figures that we have shown here are taken from anonymous users of Netatmo devices. Those users, they have a weather station with notifications on their phone that shows them when the CO2 level is too high. So they already have this information. But what about other clients who don't have any type of CO2 sensor or weather stations such as the Netatmo? And now we can consider that it's still the majority of people that doesn't have this type of devices. So we believe that it's really important to still focus on this air pollution, on this indoor air pollution, because it's really not mastered by the users. The second point, as Sandra mentioned before, we believe it's relevant because it's a common factor for other pollutants. So and the COVID has proven it. Let's say that we can consider the COVID not as a pollutant, but as maybe like an element. But we have seen that basically what is bad can be refreshed and spread out by some outdoor air being brought in. And also, we believe that it will be relevant for the next years because we think that the behaviors will change. The remote work has already been growing up before COVID. Of course, COVID has brought that to be a massive habit. And as Sandra mentioned, if I stayed, for example, 2 hours in my bedroom, like I am now, the CO2 will raise really quickly, like maybe it will reach 1000 ppm in maybe 1 hour. But when we are at the office with 10 people in the same space, we will never reach 1000 ppm because we have an HVAC which is efficient, because we have something which is really designed to do that. So we believe that measuring CO2 as a common factor will really be essential for the next years, as it has already been, and now we believe it will grow. So that's all for us. So of course, as Steven said, also it's the same for us. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us, and of course, feel free to ask us any questions at the end of this meeting.